And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Ascension, Gift of the Elements. This is the 11th expansion for Ascension. There's a lot of expansions out there for Ascension, and they always add new things. So if you're watching this, we're just taking a look at what's inside this. I'm assuming you know how to play Ascension. If you don't, you can go watch my original Ascension review, and you can learn. This is a complete game in and of itself, but you can also throw this in with other sets if you want to. Here's what's in the set. So here's the new board for the game. It's a darker board than some of the last ones, but you know, the different artwork on it. So people always like the new artwork, and of course, there we have the new cultist, the new heavy infantry, the new militia, the new mystic, and the new apprentice, because you know, people are going to want to customize their game with them. Eventually, you're going to have so many of these, you'll have enough to have a different one in everyone's deck, probably. But we want to take a look at some of the cards that have come in this set. So let's start by taking a look at the elementals. This is just thematic purposes, but you can see here there's some elementals that give you the 5 and 4 victory points, but they let you banish cards, and that's kind of a theme of this set, is banishing cards. Because you have other elementals like this one here. If this is banished, you draw 2 cards. If this is banished, you gain 2 attack power. If this is banished, you gain 2 money. If this is banished, then you gain 3 points. And so these are all elementals. It's a nice theming. There's also aspirants who have a new thing called Empower, which lets you banish a card when you buy them. So you buy this, and it says you can banish a card that you've played this turn. Well, that's really nice, especially since they only cost 1. So when you buy these, you can basically banish the thing that you've used to buy it with. You now have something new, which is a decent one, especially this Deranged Aspirant, which lets you banish other cards. Like I said, this set is all about banishing cards from your deck. It also has a new power when it comes to monsters. If you notice here, the Nom Tribe Gremlins and the Yuk Tribe Gremlins have Infest. When you beat these guys, instead of them going to the void, they go into another player's discard pile. It could be your own even, it doesn't say. So when it just shows up in their pile, it's just kind of a pain. This is something that a lot of other games have, like wounds and things. This one here, when you play the Nom Tribe Goblin, no, you then stick it in someone else's pile. So this one's being passed around. And there are 4 each of these. There's also 4 of the Bam Tribe Gremlins who do that. This kind of ties in with the Yuk Tribe Outcast here, who lets you draw a card, banish a card in the center row. And then if you have another one of these Yuk Tribe Outcasts in your hand, and there's 3 of them, or you have one of the Gremlins, or one of the, in your hand, the Yuk Tribe Gremlins, then you can basically acquire or defeat any card in the center row without paying its cost. That's a really cool thing. Now you have to have the right combo for it to happen, but if you're playing with just this set, it will likely happen because it's happened multiple times when I've played it. Other monsters, we have the Tectonic Thrasher, Unspeakable Doom. This one here gives you 5 points and 2 points for each monster in everyone else's hand if they have them. So again, that works with this set. Here's 5, makes you get rid of your constructs. Big nasty guy who, when you beat him, gives you 4 points and 3 cards. And the biggest monster in this set, the Deluge Elemental, gives you 6 points. You can banish up to 4 cards in your hand, deck, discard pile, and or cards played this turn. That's really cool. Lets you banish stuff all over the place. Now, the whole point of this set is not these cards, but it's the events. If you notice down at the bottom, there's an event zone here. And in this event zone, when you draw an event, it doesn't go up in the main row. It comes down here instead. Events were introduced in an earlier set, and there's not a ton of events. I think this is only the second expansion to have them. But when an event comes up, it affects everyone. For example, here, constructs in the center row cost 1 less to acquire to a minimum of 1. So constructs cost 1 cheaper. Or you can pay 8, and this is something new to the set, to transform this into the Forge Mother Racer and acquire it. So these are all called trials. Someone's on trial. I guess you can pay to free them. If you do, she comes into your thing. She's a very powerful character. which lets you draw a card or get any number of constructs in the center row without paying their cost. The Citra trial, heroes in the center row cost 1 less. When she transforms, you gain points equal to the total point value of all heroes and constructs in the center row. That's extremely powerful. Then we have a monster event. Here, whenever you play a monster in your hand, so if you happen to have them, which will be likely from this set, you get 2 attack, and you can pay 8 to turn this guy into this false ally who gives you 5 and 2 for each monster you played or play this turn. And he's worth 6 points, which is neat. And then we have Dartha. Dartha says once per turn, if you've played a Mystic or a Heavy Infantry, draw a card. So most people have Mystics and Heavy Infantries, so they'll draw cards. And then you transform him, and he lets you draw 4 cards. That's awesome. I love that. I always like the guy who lets you draw 3 cards. Now you have someone who lets you draw 4 cards. And then finally we have Emery's Trial, which makes monsters cost 1 less to defeat. And when you beat him, he gives you 4 attack. And when you beat a monster, you get 2 from each other player. So you can see these guys are really mean and really nasty. And they come in 2 different sets. So you can see this one here is the event, and it flips over. But the game also provides you with just an event, and then you can bring out the transform card if you want. That way you can pick which style you want if you don't want to see the cards when you're shuffling them in the deck. All right, let's go back to other cards here. We have some more heroes. I'm just going to be showing you some random heroes at this point. So we have Unite, which is something that showed up before, which means when you play another card of the same type, you get to do Unite ability. And some of the Lifebound people have Unite on that. So I'm kind of just going through here, showing you some of the things here. This one's fun. If you control 2 or more Mechana constructs, gain 2 attack, so that's nice, because there's a lot of them in the game. A Scrap Reaver, Grand Arbiter Todd, who lets you draw 2 cards, and if you banish a monster, get rid of those monsters out of your hand, you can draw an additional card. We have Ulan's Fist and Ulan the Crusher. This is another one of those dual card things, where this one gives you 2 attack, this one gives you 4 attack, but if you have them both, you also draw a card and gain an additional 2 attack, which is pretty powerful. That's an 8 attack and drawing a card. This guy here, when you acquire him, you can put him in your hand if you played a Mystic this turn and then draw 2 cards. Here's more things about controlling Mechana constructs. If you control 3 or more, get 2. If you control 4 or more, draw 2 cards. We also have an Iron Elemental and the Thicket Familiar. Reveal the top card, put in your deck. If it has Empower, gain 2. All right, at this point, I want to show you guys some of my favorite cards from the set. I always like to pick some cards that are really enjoyable for me. Here we have the Sister of the Wind, who you can banish her and a card in your hand. If you do, you get a Mystic or Heavy Infantry in your hand. So that's a kind of an interesting card. She costs 3, and you have to get rid of her and another card, but then you get a Mystic and Heavy Infantry that goes right into your hand. But for a while, I guess, I don't know. She's just an interesting card to me. I really like these. These are the constructs that cost only 1. It's nice to have a 1 construct. And these also help if you defeat monsters. You defeat a monster, get 2. Defeat a monster, draw a card. Defeat a monster, banish a card in your pile. This one I really enjoy. He's just basically, he's empowered. So when you buy him, you can, banish a card. But then he does a 5 attack. He can kill any monster that's 5 or less, which is most of the monsters. The Temple of the Wind lets you banish a card in your hand and replace it with a Mystic or Heavy Infantry, which is something you want to do all the time. This Void construct gives you 1 attack every turn, and if you banish the card, gives you a point. Sunny Light Wielder here lets you defeat a monster without paying its cost. There's always these guys, right? But if that monster would go to the Void, you can stick it in someone else's pile instead. Then we have a bunch of interesting things here. This guy gives you 2, and you're considered to control 2 extra Mechana constructs this turn. You say, why would you do that? Oh yeah, there's those other ones that if you control a certain amount, you get something. That's true. Also, this one here, when you defeat a monster, you can put it into play and it counts as a construct for you. And that's cool because of this card. Blast Goggles. Once per turn, if you control 5 or more constructs, gain 5. Yeah. Or this one. The Prime Directive. If you control 8 or more Mechana constructs, you win the game. Immediately. Period. Nothing else. This is cool. This is a neat thing to have in the game. This is a threat. If someone gets this, you immediately are going to try to get rid of their construct if all possible or end the game before they can win it. Really cool idea. I love alternate victory conditions. My favorite card in this new set. Ascension artwork gets better all the time. This set's no exception. I like how it looks. I like the theming of this set. This set is kind of a type set. Well, what I mean by that is there are different sets. The last one added light and dark. There's a major mechanism. There was a dream one, and those are really cool sets. And honestly, they're probably some of my favorite sets because they add such neat stuff to the game, but they also add new things you got to learn. This one has events that you can buy and that empower, and the pestilence thing. That's it. You know, that's it. Just having a few small things. This one's really easy. Like, you could buy this and mix it with your base set, and it would fit in really nice and easy. Now, this set is probably subject to dilution more than many of the other sets because a lot of the cards work together really well. When I talk to the folks from Stoneblade, they often encourage you to get maybe just one of these, one of the small ones, mix them together, usually the ones that come out together. You don't want to mix too many cards together, but you can. But let's say, for example, in this one, the events. Well, the events are going to come up very rarely if you mix it with the other 1,000 cards that are in Ascension at this point in time, and your deck is up to here. But I do like some of these cards, and I wouldn't mind mixing some of them in other sets too, because I really like, this one has tons of that banishing. Everyone likes this. When you play a deck builder game, you like to thin your deck. You like to have your deck as small as possible. This one is really going to let you do that. Those events which turn into things, they're awesome. But I'll tell you what, they're also tantalizing because they sit there and like, ooh, you got 8? No, it's the third turn of the game. Can you get 8 eventually? So you're saving up to get 8 and someone else buys it out from underneath you. But it's an interesting thing. When you buy it, also the event disappears. So I really like those. I wish there was actually more of those events. It's just a fun addition to the game. The empowering, when you buy something, you can banish something. That's cool. I like the banishing. The putting the monsters out of people's deck, that's decent. It's a little annoying. I guess that's the whole point of it. But the prime directive, being able to win the game an alternate way, that's kind of cool. I've always liked having a bunch of Mechana constructs. That's always been one of the things I like to do in a game, is to see how many of those I can possibly get. And having a way to just instantly win the game is also a lot of fun. So it's a solid set. Nothing like groundbreakingly new about it, but that's not a bad thing. Old things like events, transforming, mixing those together was a cool idea and a way to thin your deck down. I think a lot of people are going to like Gift of the Elements. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!